National polls, you're either tied or close with the Liberals. When I look, most of them, it's margin of error stuff.
No, one had us ahead yesterday, and had me ahead of Carney personally.
I haven't seen that one, but I did see the Abacus one that have you tied as parties nationally, but also that showed that the number one issue for voters by far was cost of living. 67% say the cost of living is worse than I remember at any point in my life. 62% say it's the most important issue for the government to deal with. 22 points ahead of healthcare, which is number two at 40%. You've been hammering home on this. What practically can be done, though, to deal with it? Inflation, core inflation, if you just look at 2.2%, that's manageable, that's okay. Food inflation in November was up 4.7%. Groceries cost 27% more than they did 5 years ago. What can the government actually do? What are you proposing that they do to deal with this? Because when Abacus digs deeper, groceries is the number one issue.
Absolutely. Well, the question isn't what the government should do, it's what it should stop doing. Stop taxing food, stop taxing the food chain. The government.
Now you raise this in the House, and the Liberals always say there's no taxes on food.
Okay. Well, if you tax the steel that goes into farm equipment, then you're making it more expensive for farmers to produce food. You tax fertilizer, which is hit with the industrial carbon tax, then you're taxing food production. The fuel tax, they call it the fuel standard, that's driving up the cost of gas and diesel for farmers and truckers who bring us our food. Then you've got the food packaging tax, which is this ban on the use of plastics. Well, that makes food go bad 4 days earlier, and that costs $1 billion in higher grocery bills. Not to mention, when the government has a $78 billion deficit, that also inflates food prices. So at the end of the day, those are all Liberal food taxes. Are they on your bill? No, they're worse than that. It's worse that they're not on the bill because they're hidden, dishonest, Liberal taxes that drive up the cost of groceries. And it's why the cost of food keeps rising. Next year, according to Dalhousie University, the grocery bill for a family of four will be up another $1,000 to $17,600 to feed a family of four. Like, where do people get that money? It's going to be a nightmare, and we've got to get rid of all those taxes because people should be able to have a full stomach, a full fridge, and a full bank account at the same time.
Coffee, I don't know about you, but coffee is a staple for me.
Yeah, it's up like 30% or something.
29 point something. Yeah. So 30, close enough. Now, part of that is for a while we had a counter. The Americans weren't tariffing coffee from us. We don't sell them any, but we had a tariff on coffee coming in from the States, where most of it comes from. And where does the United States gets most of its coffee from? Brazil. So they had a tariff on Brazilian coffee. We had a tariff once it came in from Brazil to the U.S. and into Canada. So at least they've gotten rid of that. But beef's up 17%.
Lettuce, I think, is up 30%.
Now people are moving to chicken and pork because they're cheaper.
Chicken's up too.
And now those are going up. So, some of those aren't government policy. Some of it's like, with the beef producers, there was a drought and a bunch of farmers cut out. So how does the government incentivize more beef production or?
Well, look, there's a number of things on agriculture that are smaller. Like, for example, they have massive regulations that prevent our farmers from protecting their crops from pests like gophers. And that might seem like a small thing. I can tell you, in my riding of Battle River Crowfoot, gophers are chewing up $10,000 of one farmer's crop because he can't use rodenticide, and that 10 grand is going to get passed on. And then it also gets passed on in the cost of producing the barley to feed the cows. So carbon taxes and the new fuel tax is going to drive up the cost of farming because you got to diesel up your truck and your tractor. All of that stuff makes food more expensive. And I also get frustrated with all these excuses governments make. Say, oh, okay, well, if you just look at beef, it's because of a cattle shortage this year. Or coffee, it's just because of something that happened in Brazil. Everything in the food basket is up, and it's been going up year after year after year as these excuses come and go. And as they go, like, remember, their excuse was COVID. Well, COVID's gone now, so why didn't food prices drop back down after it supposedly caused the inflation? Because if COVID wasn't the culprit, it was government spending, government taxes, government inflation, and that's what we have to address.
Well, China, or it's Canada and Japan are the two countries where food inflation is detached from core inflation. Everyone else, it goes at about the same rate.
Right.
And us in Japan, we make a lot of food. Japan imports a lot.
Exactly.
So that's a bad thing.
Look, everything should be dirt cheap in Canada, Brian, because we have the most dirt. We have the most dirt to grow food on, the most dirt to build houses on, the most dirt to dig resources from. So, and I don't mean that to be glib. It is genuinely true. It should be cheap to buy a house, for example, in Canada, because we have space. If we're in Singapore or Hong Kong and you said, well, there's just nowhere to put houses, I would say, you know what, you got a fair point. I'm not going to blame the government on that one. But we have the second biggest landmass, and much of the land is right next to big cities where the housing could go. The same for food. And of course, our resources should be meaning that we have the cheapest energy and the most powerful dollar around to buy stuff. So we have no excuses. But the good news is, because we have all those things, we can be the most affordable country in the world.